Last look, 6 degrees here in Regina. Glen Suitor sporting the University of Saskatchewan Huskies hat.
Attaboy.
Getting set for some football. I don't know, is this the first time that we can say on November the 20th it's nicer in Regina than it is in Vancouver?
Yeah, probably. Absolutely. Yeah. And you guys look like you're in a really nice setup there. You got the red carpet behind you. It's beautiful. It looks like it's going to be quite the night. So I'm kicking myself for not booking my return flight from Winnipeg to stop in Regina, go to the Vanier, and then go home after. I'm really kicking myself for this because I would love to watch that game live.
A lot of people are starting to stream into Regina. There's still tickets available for the game. It's rush seating. Tickets start as low as $20, and so no bad seats, right? Because you pick it yourself. So it's going to be a good time here on Saturday. We've been having a good time, as a matter of fact, Glen Suitor from TSN, all week long. It was like we were partying like it was 1989, I think. What was that Grey Cup celebration like?
Yeah, partying like it was 13, 07, or 89.
Or all combined.
Yeah, we'll combine them all. It's surreal. And back then there was such a gap between the 66 Cup and the 89 Cup. I mean, we're talking kids that, weren't born and then, grew up with the team that, struggled for a long time. I don't even want to bring it up because, I don't want to see any repeats of it. But, there was a song that was created called 11, That's Enough, because we never made the playoffs for 11 straight years. And, I wasn't part of all 11, but I do remember the tail end of that and how difficult it really was, and how the fans had to endure just year after year of struggling teams and changing coaching staffs and, just all of the, the struggles that you go through when you're trying to figure out the formula. And once it happened, it was for the fans. That 89 Cup was 100% for the fans. And I heard, Trevor and AJ with you guys. And I know Trevor, I'm sure he feels the same way about, how important the fan base is when you're in this community and you're going through the grocery store and people are coming up and saying hi and people are talking about it and wanting to know what's going on. And there's highs and lows in that, but as you go through you realize that they do it because they care so much, they've invested so much, they're passionate about their team. And then when you win it, you just want to hand the cup to every one of those fans right after and say, you're part of this, you're part of this journey. And so that's why I'm really happy for them. And I saw the great turnout, and you're seeing it on the stream now. It's beautiful weather and they got to celebrate. And like Trevor said, maybe for the first time in the franchise's history, they can go after another one.
So was there cuss words being tossed out when you celebrated in 89? Because depending on who you ask here in Saskatchewan, Glenn, that's the first time that we've ever seen swearing at a Grey Cup parade.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember if there was. I'm sure there was. I mean, when I think about some of the guys we had on that team, then it was hard to believe that they couldn't, that was completely clean all the time. I don't think it's a big thing, really. Like, I get it. I mean, you can always turn to your child and say, that's a bad word. We've talked about it before. And I know that they are role models, but I don't think it's a big thing. They're celebrating. I think if you turn on any of the streaming services now and watch pretty much any show now, you're going to hear pretty much every cuss word that you heard on the celebration.
Oh, man, they've heard way worse on the playground.
Yeah, exactly. So, you have to live with it. Mom and Dad will straighten that out with the kids.
Obviously haven't been around me when I'm trying to fix a clogged drain, right? Like, obviously.
But one of the actual, stories that have been floating around Saskatchewan, and I think right across the CFL this week, Glenn, is really just what is in Trevor Harris's future. He's alluded to the fact that he wants to go for it again. That's not obviously official or anything like that. But what do you think is going through his mind right now? Take us into that mindset of all these reporters coming at you asking that big question: are you going to retire? Are you going to go for one more?
Yeah, he has to make the decision based on a few factors. One is going to be his family. He's a tremendous father and family man, so that'll be the first priority. Is his family okay with another season, and all that entails? So that's the first discussion, I'm sure. And then he's got to make the personal decision about whether or not he can physically and mentally be all in. It sounds like, based on what he's been saying throughout the celebration here, it sounds like he is ready to do that. Like, it feels like that stage is almost like a yes, you can check that box, because you can't put one foot in and say, I'm kind of, you know what, I'll go for another year, but I'm not really committed, but let's see how it turns out. You just can't do that. You can't do that at this level. You can't do that with this game in particular. It's too physical a game to be half in. So, and Trevor knows that. So those will be the big decision makers. I know for me it was a different scenario, because I had, through, working outside of football, I had, discussed things with TSN, and we had talked. I had done an audition for them in the off season. I was ready to play 3 or 4 more years. In my mind, I was in to play 3 or 4 more years. And then on a Friday, I got a call from TSN saying, hey, we have 20 games for you. You'd have to retire, obviously. And we need to know by Monday. So, yeah. And well, guys, when I did the audition, it was a month earlier, in the middle of the off season, because I thought, and we had discussed, TSN and I had discussed, that this would be an audition that they'd keep for future, like 3-4 years down the road. And I said, because that's how much longer I want to play. So first call I made was to Al Ford at the time, and asked him and told him what was on the table. And, he was fantastic. I still remember vividly what that conversation sounded like, because, I was going crazy. That was 72 hours of zero sleep, where, and my wife was hilarious, because I said, what do you think we should do? And she goes, I am not going there at all. Whatever you decide, I will support you. But there is no way I'm going to give you my opinion on this until you've made a decision. But Al Ford called, and when I talked to him, he was fantastic. And he said, Glenn, you're our safety. You're going to be our free safety. If you come back, you're our free safety. So don't think you're coming back to try and make the team or whatever. You're our starting free safety, but everybody faces this decision at some point in their career. And you have to look at the future. You can only play so long, but whatever you decide, we'll be fine as a team. We'll be able to find a guy, and we'll be fine as a team. So it was good to know that I wasn't letting anyone down. And it was also good to know that, Al, whether it's true or not, Al was saying, hey, you're our guy, so don't worry about that. And after looking at the ceiling all night long for 2 straight nights, I thought, and this will probably be part of the Trevor discussion. I thought the 89 championship season was really what determined it for me. I thought, the TSN opportunity may not be there down the road, but that's a risk I was willing to take. I still passionately wanted to play 3 more years, maybe 4. I felt great physically. And because we won in 89, and I kept looking at that ring saying, you know what, this is why you do it. This was accomplished. That team, I was part of that team that accomplished this championship. That's kind of like the dream come true, so you can maybe move on with your life in another direction. And that's why it came down to that for me. It was the fact that we had won really was the determining factor for me. And I'm sure it will be part of the decision for Trevor, but it sounds like he wants to come back. And I think he should. I think he should. When you're completing 85% in the Grey Cup, come on back. You're still playing at the highest level the game can have.
Glenn, this may sound ridiculous from my side of the conversation, but obviously you had to make the decision. As you mentioned yourself, you've had teammates who've had to make the decision. How important is controlling the narrative of that decision to athletes? For example, I want to walk away as opposed to I'm told to walk away.
Yeah, I don't know. I think personally, Dave, when I think back to that time when I was making the decision, that really never came into it for me. It wasn't like I'm so I have so much pride, personal pride, that I want to walk away before they cut me. I remember every single training camp, every coach that we had, and there were a bunch of them, but every coach that we had would ask the same question: how many people in this room, on the very first day, he would say, how many people in this room have ever been cut before? And pretty much the entire room would put their hand up, that at one time in their journey, they have been cut from a team. So, I don't think, first of all, Trevor doesn't have to worry about that, because
No.
I know the organization is going to want him back. And it'll be the same probably kind of Al Ford call, which will be, hey, you're our guy, and we can work out the numbers, but we want you back for another year, another run. And, I'm sure there'll be a lot of players. And here's the one thing about it, guys, with the free agents that come up, because the list is so long now. Rather than go through different players that you'd love to have back, I would just say there's an overall philosophy with free agency that's important from an organization's point of view. Make sure you make those calls. Make sure, because players want to believe that they're wanted. And the money is going to be, maybe it's different, maybe there's a better offer somewhere, but when you break it all down with taxes and everything, boy, I wouldn't make a decision based on an extra 10 grand or 5 grand or 20 grand or whatever. I just wouldn't make a decision based on that. And so, but if an organization doesn't call you and they say, well, we'll wait, we'll see what happens in free agency, and then we do want the guy back, but we'll call him later on in the process, that player is halfway gone already, honestly. So, and I know the organization, if Corey Mace has anything to do with this, and he will, he's going to call these guys. He'll call every one of them and say, hey, even if you don't want to negotiate yet, we want you back. And you know who is the best example of that? Justin McInnes. Justin McInnes got a call from Vancouver and from some of the players and management, and he said, you know what? They really want me. I'm going there.
We're here at the U Sports Awards Gala at the Connexus Arts Center. Glen Suitor, of course, it is press coverage for Bronco Plumbing and Heating. When professional service is guaranteed, they'll treat you right. 781-2090. I mentioned you're wearing your U of S Huskies hat. I know how much of your time you have given to that program in Saskatoon at the Dog's Breakfast. Tell me about U Sports, because is it one of the, I don't want to say secret gems of our country, but boy, I tell you, there's a lot of people that haven't discovered the quality of play there yet.
It's great football.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting games, great football, great athletes that are more and more pro ready every single year, by the way, when it comes to the draft and things like that. But, I don't know. I can tell you from a TSN perspective that the people in the trenches and management that is in charge of football in general, we really wanted the U Sport package. Like I didn't sit in the official meetings, but I did hear through our guys in the truck, our producers on the road, and how much we wanted that. And U Sports sort of made the decision, the direction that they wanted to go. And I'm not disparaging anyone else that's covered the the league. But I know we wanted to package it with the Canadian Football League, have the Vanier Cup in the same weekend. We wanted to do a feature game of the week, like U of R versus U of S. And there's lots of rivalries across youth sports. We wanted to do sort of a feature game, have our panel members and broadcasters like myself be part of all of those telecasts in an effort to sort of, bring more of that, not celebrity. I don't even know what that word means, but you know what I mean? Like just bring some credibility to it, some pro credibility to it. And we really wanted to work on that package. So maybe one day, I think the sentiment is still true that our guys would love to sort of package it together with football in our country. And before long, we're going to be adding flag football to that discussion.
Yeah.
Here in Saskatchewan, I think you would have a lot of cheerleaders because we have had one heck of a year when it comes to Saskatchewan football, right? I mean, like you have the Huskies that are now in Regina playing in this Vanier Cup, the Hilltops victorious, the Valkyries victorious. The Riders just won the dang great cup. So I think there would be a lot of support here for that one, Glenn. But we are in for quite the matchup tomorrow. Anything that just sticks out to you? Anything that jumps off the page in this matchup?
Well, I just want a special shout out to Anton and how this has been an entire province rallying around him and rallying around his family as he, is getting into his battle. And I'm sure his teammate. This is the part that sort of transcends the game, and whether they win or lose, one thing that the Huskies are going to give every ounce of everything they have. All their passion, all their strength, all their speed, everything they've got, they're going to give it because, they've had a teammate that they're playing for that's going to be watching. I think, it's going to inspire every one of those guys. Sometimes you still don't win the game. Sometimes, it's a fumble at the wrong time or it's a field goal that, walk off and you just don't quite get there as far as the scoreboard. But one thing, the Huskies are going to give it everything they got. First of all, they got a great program, and Scott has been outstanding. He was that way as a player, and he is as a coach now. And I feel like a family member of the entire university and the football program because it's been so many years of going up. And this year was with Luke that joined our telecast throughout the season was the guest speaker. Luke Wilson. So, I wish him all the best. I'm thinking about Anton and hoping that, he gets well real quick. And let's go Huskies. Let's go, man.
They might be flashing a lot of 11s on the field Saturday at Mosaic Stadium. That's for sure.
Yeah, real cool. Just maybe to add to that, there is a GoFundMe that has been set up for Anton and his family. It's over $64,000 in a week, so it's kind of Saskatchewan and what we do. And I know this won't surprise you, Glenn, but the Saskatchewan Roughriders are actually working with the Huskies to see if there is any way that Anton can come to the game this weekend, that they'll do everything that they can to get him from Saskatoon here to Regina. But I guess one last thought before we let you go. I teased it. The idea that your former teammate may become the head coach in Toronto and Kent Austin. Your reaction, and is it a possibility?
Oh, I heard he's on their list. No question about that. And it seems like it's a good time for him personally and a good time for him professionally because he's out of work right now. So it looks like he'll be a front runner. Now that doesn't mean it's a done deal, but it looks like he'll be a front runner. I mean, Kent knows the quarterback position. He knows the game. If I was playing devil's advocate, he was always a great teammate. He's won a championship. All of those things are what you look for as an organization. He knows Toronto, been there before as well. So, all of that sort of is on the yes, he'll be the guy side of the conversation. If I was going to play devil advocate on the other side, it would be that Corey Mace, Ryan Dinwiddie, they have been examples of young guys coming through and they become coordinators and then those young guys finally get their chance to become head coaches. And those two examples, wow, look at their success rate. Corey Mace, championship in year 2. Ryan Dinwiddie, 2 championships in the last 3 years. He's off to Ottawa now. I mean, the guy that has gone through and had been around for 10, 15 years, doesn't have to have been an ex-player, but that helps. And going through and becoming a position coach and then a coordinator and then getting his opportunity to run a team, that model has worked well of late. So, if I'm playing devil's advocate on that, that may be something that they're looking at and looking at that list of names. But Ken Dawson is sure, he checks a lot of boxes for sure.
Well, Glenn, I know you'll be cheering loud in Vancouver for the Saskatchewan Huskies this weekend. We thank you once again for your time. Amazing job at the Grey Cup. It was fun just following around in your shadows last week in Winnipeg, and what a win for the ages.
Well, I don't know about that, Dick, but thank you so much. And you too. I don't get a lot of time to hear you guys with your call because obviously I'm working at the same time.
Slacker.
But I did catch a few quarters and things like that here and there, and you guys did a fantastic job. So congratulations to you guys too, again, to the entire city. And let's make it like 3 in a row. Junior football, pro football, and now college football. Let's go. Got to win it.